Hello, my name's Derek. I'm host talking with famous people. I'm here with sort of famous people in the room, and we are going to talk today about the subject of how we actually use typing knowledge when we're dealing with other people in the world. And the reality is, I pretty much only use it a lot when I'm working with new kids in debate. I'll try to figure out what kind of thinkers they are. I've got this little third grade girl named Kalina. She's an INTJ, and I'm having always to explain to her mom why she's not good improvising. And it is okay because she has a certain style of learning that means she needs to go home and sit with it for a day or two, and then she comes back and she understands it. And it's okay. It's just how INTJs learn. And so they're not NTPs. They don't spit it right back at you instantly. They have to write it down. They have to look at it. Shit like that. NTPs spit it right back at you. No problem. And she gets frustrated with her own daughter. She sits in class every time. She gets frustrated with her own daughter for not being able to do that. But I have explained to her multiple times now that's not the kind of brain she has. You know? She's not an NTP. It doesn't mean she's not smart. It doesn't mean she's not going to be a kick-ass fucking debater. I've never had a third grader before in public forum. She's the first one that I ever had who could handle it. She's an INTJ. So that's how I use it in life a little bit. But by and large, I'd say I don't go into those things looking at typing necessarily. Adam?
Um, that sort of improvisation that you were referring to, that sort of NI improvisation, you made the contrast between that and like an ENTP spitting it back at you. So there's a clear difference there. Do you think that that sort of improvisation is prevalent in most types without the SI and E axis?
I think ESTPs have their own variety of it, which annoys me. I think SE DOMs in general have their own variety of improvisation, which is reasonably effective. They're good on their feet in rounds. They're shitty in class because they're bored, because it's too intuitive for them. But they're good on their feet in rounds. And the thing is, it's the SE, the action people, SE people, and NE people are the improvisers. But I used an example in a comment the other day. It says, I'll just read the comment. It says, ENTPs are the best improvisers across the board. SE DOMs are designed to take advantage of real time opportunities in space. A prisoner who runs when he sees an open door is an SE DOM. The prisoner who alerts the guards and then takes advantage of the goodwill he's generated to talk them into letting him go is the ENTP. So, I mean, I think that's the improvisational quality though doesn't make us necessarily that's not necessarily the best thing to be, right? Because we find ourselves in situations where we have to improvise all the time because we're just sort of like shooting wildly in every direction. Um, but yeah, do you guys, any of you guys, we've talked about all this cognitive function stuff a lot. You obviously know a lot about it as well. What do you guys do with it? Anything?
Um, I I think what I do mainly is like if I won't speak about it in like MBTI terms, but I kind of can get a feel for like why someone's misunderstanding another person. So I'll kind of help their perspective so they don't take things so personally or like um,
I, s- uh,
I don't know, just yeah, just try and explain why certain people are how they are, um, and then they better understand, and then I don't know, they don't feel as crappy, I guess.
I think I've become more aware of different kinds of reasoning, if their thought pattern is logic or if there's based on FI stuff or yeah.
Right. I guess in general, I'd say that I'm less inclined to battle against FI in life or anywhere because I recognize it more for what it is and don't try to hold it to account to logic. If you think about it, FI encounters a lot of abuse in life because everyone's always trying to logic at it. And it's not just the thinkers, it's no matter what, we live in a world where people have to justify shit, at least to some extent or another. And FI is all about not justifying shit, really. So that dealing with such individuals is a different matter than dealing with individuals who are TI. Jacob, you got anything to say about this? Or how?
I find that sometimes it can actually make social interactions become more awkward because it takes before where I just naturally interact with people, now I have to take the time to analyze them.
I don't think I do analyze very much, though, is the point, I guess, the bottom line of this whole thing. I do think that when I'm dealing with chicks, I do more, maybe. Like,
And I do have the temptation to act like other types just to see how the relationship will play out. So if I see an INTP, I might be tempted to act like an ESFJ, their dual, to see if it'll cause like a positive response, and it does. I've done that before. I've made INTPs fall in love with me almost instantly before. Yeah.
Player. So Eric, do you feel like you can like kind of like compartmentalize that like analytical MBTI stuff while you're interacting with people? I'm like always like it's always on the back burner or I'm thinking about it.
I'll give you an example. Who am I getting that weird echo from? Oh, I guess it was you, nope, maybe it's me. I don't know. Regardless, an example would be I was talking to Capillo on the Facebook Messenger the other night, and she said after I contacted her, she said, "Oh, I can't talk to you right now because I have to go to sleep." Now, normally I would think, what the fuck does that mean? You know, like there's some sort of subtext or something there. But I remembered that Capillo's an ISFP. She literally means she can't talk to me right now. She has to go to sleep. And in fact, that's what she meant. There was no subtext. There was no like weirdness or whatever. But knowing that she's an ISFP allowed me to not try to read a lot of shit into that and just accept it for what it was. She couldn't talk to me right now. She had to go to sleep.
Yeah, I suppose it reduces the room for making premature judgments about certain types.
I think it's important to remember how much subtext the person is comfortable with. This is a very subtext heavy environment full of intuitives where things reference other things that were said before indirectly. So there's things that are said that are known, are understood fully by some people and not understood fully by other people because of personal history or relationship to the event being referenced. That's not exactly secret, but not necessarily widely known. It's like shit like that goes down all the time in conversation around here because we're a very subtext heavy group. When you're dealing with certain kinds of sensors, especially, they just don't engage in that kind of subtext. And if we're used to reading it, we'll interpret totally banal statements to mean weird shit that they don't mean. So that's helpful, you know. It's helpful to prevent some miscommunications. Anybody else have any thoughts on this topic? Let's see who Homie is. Maybe Homie has some thoughts on this topic.
What was the topic? Original topic?
Is utilizing MBTI knowledge in the world and interacting with other people.
Do you guys see MBTI as a tool, as a great tool to know what kind of, well, I was thinking like applying it to careers, knowing your strength and your weaknesses, so that.
Well, that's how MBTI views itself, I think, is as a employment kind of tool. I mean, I think it's absolutely true that it would be wise to make career recommendations to children based on their personality types rather than anything else. Because,
What about education?
I mean, yeah,
Should people learn differently?
Well, not
Be
exactly.
taught differently?
Not in terms of. I mean, the teaching methodology should be individuated to the student anyway, really, or to the extent that it can be. I mean, you're still doing the same shit, right? It's just a matter of like the INTJ and the ENTP learn differently, but I don't really teach them differently because it's not really possible to teach them differently. They just, I present the information as much as I can and in a lot of different ways. I reword it a lot of different ways, and I give a lot of analogies. And then they take notes, and then they do it wrong, and I yell at them, and they do it again. And it's just like everybody has to go through the same processes more or less, but they come about it mentally from a different angle.
Who is this?
I read in socionics that different deltas, the types in different deltas, like to work in different ways. For instance, in the alpha quadrant, the ENTP, the ISFJ, the ESFJ, and the INTP, they have a democratic and a merry atmosphere. What that means is that they create a happy atmosphere, and then anyone with good ideas are allowed to speak and voice their opinions as long based on the merits of what they say. But
right, it's talking with famous people.
Exactly. But other quadrants would like to operate would feel comfortable in a different way.
I know.
For example, in the gamma quadrant. In the gamma quadrant, they will want like a very serious and hierarchical system, like a business, a business setting.
I know. I don't
and they're
like
comfortable with that. But they're comfortable with it.
Well, but they're wrong. I mean, that is totally a worse way to be. It just is. What democratic and merry are the best things to be. Aristocratic and solemn are shitty.
I suppose it depends on the outcome that you're striving toward.
How about equality and goodness and truth and justice?
But it's so inefficient, and it's not competitive enough to achieve, I guess, goals.
Goals schmoles.
So even in a learning environment, let's say in a school, I think certain children prefer certain kinds of learning environments.
Well, that may be the case, but I win with all kinds of kids. I achieve goals, right? I do NTP teaching, NTP classroom. It's a democratic environment. Everybody's welcome to tell me to fuck off if they want to. I don't care if they're kids or not, They're encouraged to tell their teachers to fuck off. It's strongly anti-hierarchy. It's called autonomy debate for a reason. And we win. So, fuck you, Delta or Gamma or whatever.
Eric, you must respect your elders.
No, you must not respect your elders. That's rule number 1. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean hierarchical. I mean judicial.
No, it's not. It's hierarchical, is what it is. That's the problem. That's the
But
alternative to democratic. Is hierarchy. Let's
Gamma is democratic. They see each person as individuals, so they judge each person based on their own merits, like abilities, rather than in contrast, for example, the delta and the beta quadrants, they're aristocratic, so they see people as groups. They group people. They'll judge you based on what group you're in, making it aristocratic.
Boo. Boo failure. Boo. That's the worst thing you can do. Is reduce individuals to their group. That's called ontological violence. I'm going to reduce that group to a bunch of ontologically violent individuals. It's bad to do that, right? It is bad to say, oh, well, those people are just blah, 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 so their opinion doesn't matter. Whereas these people are blah, 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 so their opinion matters. That's bad. It's fundamentally bad.
I suppose they are inherently susceptible to group thinking. Like, if they are inherently susceptible to group thinking, shouldn't we need some sort of like rehabilitation for them?
No.
Like rehab for a couple of years?
No, they're just
To find what it
non-deliberative.
means to be
Look,
an
they're
individual.
non-deliberative. That's what they are. Fundamentally, is non-deliberative. They're like, let's act. The time for empty talk is over. Let's not talk about it anymore because we're stupid. But look, that's fine. We need a certain amount of that to balance out our excessive deliberativeness. I will concede. I'm excessively deliberative. I tend to mistake talking about a thing for actually doing something.
I need to take a piss.
Okay.
Is this video still going?
It is, but you know what? I think it's been pretty good, entertaining, interesting topic about just general socionics and stuff like that. Not really on topic where we originally started. We'll probably title it "Democratic and Aristocratic: Good and Bad equals Good and Bad." Okay.
But that's just a really small part of it.
Well, it's the most important message. Okay, it's the message with the
Okay.
most significance. That's how I'll justify titling it that way. Alpha. Yeah. Alpha forever, baby. What? Alpha Quadrant's the best quadrant. What?